look out against the history, because Rasta man, we always break things down and we say history. We say we come to that his story, So everything what we learn is about what the British people tell us, They tell us their story, So I like the heritage because that is, it's more richer, Like you said, we go way back before the slavery. I heard an elder say one time, she was teaching some children, and she said to the children, she said, let me tell you something. You were never free. They paid a lot of money for you. Your ancestors, they paid a lot of money. Some, they even paid $50,000, and I had no knowledge of that, that they were paying that much for men who they considered to be strong back man, So she kind of put it and says they didn't pay us when we did our work, but we didn't work for free, and we were never, they didn't just go to Africa and just pluck us out like that and just bring us. They paid heavy for us, so we are valuable. And I've always looked at it and called said we are valuable to this society.
Well, let me ask you: does that make reasonable, rational sense to you?
The fact that what do you mean? That we were never...
That we were bought and paid for, therefore we were never free? That's in a sense.
No, what she's trying to say, because just like you say, people tend to look at it and say, oh, they brought us here in chattel. We were valueless, and so to speak. So she's saying that no, we were never valueless. They were always a value on us. Just that
But think about it. If we were valueless, would they have brought us here in the first place?
Well, we could look at that and say, yeah.
So it's not a question of value. It's a question of the reality is we were, and are a conquered people. All right? And I think that if we're going to change our condition,
right,
we have to first accept the reality. We are a conquered people. Them conquer we, brethren.
All right.
All right? And in that conquest, they devalued us. Even put a price on us. Can you imagine that?
So, in other words then...
$50,000, that's what one of it worth?
In other words then, so what you're saying then, until we come to that place and say, yo, they really did us, like Malcolm has said, the Plymouth, what he said,
we didn't land on Plymouth.
So until we
landed on us.
Right. So we need to come to that conclusion and say, yo, we are, and then we start to build ourselves up from then.
You see, a part of the situation is that they did a number on our psyche. So much to the extent that we try to play little mind games to hold on to what's left of it, or sanity.
Right.
And these little, utterances, like what you just said, is a part of the mind game we play with ourselves to retain our sanity. But when we break it down and drill down and examine it, it don't make sense, brethren. It don't make sense. But it's what we have to do for just hold on to what like a sanity we have.
Right.
Them turn us out in the street. When Columbine happened, all kinds of psychiatrists and professionals came in to counsel the parents and the children. When emancipation came, what them do? Them turn us out on the street and say, go fend for yourself. And we've been fending for ourselves ever since. You understand? We have to be strong and boldly accept the reality of our situation. Because without that, we will not change it.
Okay. So accept that yes, them lick us, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like, all right. And then
and continue to.
Right.
You understand? So a black African man is in the White House, so so African Americans have earn $1.3 trillion a year. And you hear it said, we were talking about this Tuesday night, if we were a country, we would be the 8th largest country in the world.
Right.
You think the 8th largest country in the world is as powerless as we are. Forget about the 8th. What about the 88th richest country in the world? You think they are putting up with what the people in Flint, Michigan is putting up with?
Some maybe.
We are a downtrodden people.
Right.
Let's accept that.
Well, in truth, we have nothing. We have no land, so we have no country, then, so to speak. That's the first part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have, and when I hear the so-called revolutionaries out here, and they address and say, like, we need to kick them out of Africa. But I always, caution them about that, because it's not as easy like that to just go in and,
Like I say, we say these things. We say these things to hold on to our sanity.
Right.
We say these things to preserve our psyche, to stop from going crazy.
Right.
Because if for some of us, if we accept our condition, we go mad.
Right. So, like, I like what you're saying. So, where do you see us other people of this human race, the Africans? Where do you see us today?
Well, that's a good place to kind of begin to transition into the discussion of Rastafari. Because for me personally, Rastafari is a anti-establishment movement. A movement that accepts that this Babylon is not of us or for us.
Right.
And therefore, when it initiated and when it was bubbling, the whole idea was to shake off the shackles.
The shackles, right.
And be bold enough to reject Babylon and step forward on our own terms. That's Rastafari for me.
True that.
And well, I think you wrote a piece last year that asked the question, have we fallen short of the
glory
of Rasta? A very poignant piece, you see, because if you understand Rasta in the manner that I do, and you look at what passes for Rastafari today, then the answer has to be yes.
We are falling short.
We're falling short and continue to fall short.
Right.
However, I personally believe in the righteousness and victory of our struggle ultimately.
Right.
So that don't phase I.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. But I'm a pragmatist. I'm a realist, and I like to accept the truth and the reality, and use that as the basis for how I walk.
Right.
You understand? As you tell the story about the three priests out there and the three preach out in the waters, and you ever hear the story?
No.
Three preach out in the water: a Christian, a Jew, and must be
Imam.
Maybe an imam.
Imam. Okay.
Anyway, one of them step out and say, "Boy, I'll walk to shore." And sure enough, him walk to the shore and come back. And the Jewish man said, I'm going to walk out to the shore, and just step out of the boat and walk to the shore and come back. And the Catholic man step out and say, oh, me, I'll walk to the shore too. And him step out and him fumble. And him come back and him step out again and him fumble. And the imam turned to the Jewish man and say, you think we should show him where the steps is? All right.
Yeah, I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something like in our movie I'd watch where the man went to God and praying for lottery, praying to win the lottery, and then I think the boys come to him and say, stop your praying and go buy it. Go buy it.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, stop your praying and go buy the chicken already.
Me real and pragmatic. Though,
yeah,
yeah. And this is not to knock praying.
Yeah, and I think that was that's when you say that they lick us. I know for a fact that's how they lick us.
We get a lick, man.
We get a lick
What are you talking
because
about?
we sat down here. We have been sitting down here for the last 400 years, believing that some magical concept, something one day someone is going whoop and everything.
Don't say that,
You know?
Some of us have believed that and continue to believe that. But when I look at Nat Turner, when I look at Marcus Garvey, when I look at so many who struggled,
right,
I'm clear that it's not a question of we as a people believe that.
Right.
No,
okay. True that.
No.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, how we speak tend to shape how we are. And we have to be careful how we speak.
True that.
And when we say we did that, well, the people who understand that in that manner end up feeling hopeless.
Right.
Because them don't see the glass as half full. Them see it as them don't see the glass as half full. Them see it as half empty.
Half empty.
And getting emptier by the day in their perspective. And like I said, we make up all kind of little things to
hold on to the psyche.
Trick ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no man. We're nice.
Right.
Want to just pause to say greetings and welcome to some folk joining us in the chat room. I see Miss G in the chat room. I see Miss G says, "Hail up, Brother C and Ras Osagyefo."
Blessed Miss G, blessed.
Miss G is healing up. Well, you know what? A Klein. But that was from an earlier time. But I see some folk who are listening but not in the chat room. This is real talk. And so we encourage ones to come in and join the conversation. And the way we do that, for those of you who are new to the platform, is you speak in the chat room, and we honor it, and we channel it, and we, engage you in the conversation in that manner. So you don't have to pay a toll to come in the chat room.
Right.
You don't have to even say your official name, neither your slave name, nor your government name, nor your cultural name. You can make up a name and just do a password, because you might pass through this way again. Hold on to your password, remember it, and just your name and your password, and do it. How you do that is you see two lines from the bottom. One says message. Well, no. Yeah, one says message. Hit on profile. On the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the word profile. Just hit on profile and follow the instructions. They tell you must put a name and a password and just come in. Come join the conversation. Mythiful 13 has just joined the conversation. Greetings, Mythiful 13. Hail up CPR and all guests. Well, I hope you're not considering Ras Osagyefo a guest, because Ras Osagyefo is the co-host of this monthly program, Natural Mystics. But I'm pretty sure that
we have some guests coming in.
Mythiful 13 is looking forward to the guests when they arrive. And yes, they will be coming along in short order. We just kind of reason a little bit.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Yeah, Mythiful 13, blessed. We have guests. We have Abba Yahudah, long time soldier and we have also Brother Randy Fagan. So there's we're going to be talking on Rasta then and now and building. So like Brother C said, the chat room is there. If you feel we're chatting nonsense, you can chime in and say, yo, we're not chat nonsense. This is not a dictatorship,
Feel free to challenge anything
we say.
We keep it real. It's real. That's why we call it real talk. We keep it very real. It is, as the logo in the background says, purposeful, reflective judgment.
Right.
And I know some people like to say, judge not. What do you think about that?
Judge not. That's one of the things that they pull on our people also. Yeah, that's
wise word.
That's one of the judge not. So therefore we would I was watching the Black Panther movie the other day, and J. Edgar Hoover said something. He said the Black Panther have carried out. Maybe I'll try to paraphrase it, but when he said this one, he said they have carried out assault and belief. You know, meaning that the only way the Black Panther was to assault the belief of, you know, what the black people knew, what were taught to the black people, the belief that was planted in them by the slave master, by the system of America. So what he coined it as the Black Panther Party has carried out numerous assault and belief. And he was the same one who made the statement, we must make sure that we keep the black man in check so as not to prevent the rise of a black messiah.
That's deep.
Yeah.
An assault and belief. And so when they broke into on December 4th in 1969 into out in Chicago, Mark Clark and Fred Hampton, and murdered them in a bed, assaulted them, assault the humanity.
Right.
J. Edgar Hoover was therefore demonstrating that in his frame of reference, belief is more sacred than humanity itself.
Yep.
You understand what we're dealing with?
Because once you can go and change the mind of the people to follow, to even to think for themselves, then you're taking them from the belief that was implanted in them.
And the fact that J. Edgar Hoover would make that statement is really demonstrates that J. Edgar Hoover had a keen understanding of what the Panthers were, what they represented, what their mission was. And yet today, 50 years later, many of us don't.
Right. And not only that, he had a key understanding of the African race. When he made a statement, we must destroy the black man to prevent the rise of another messiah, of a black messiah, showed that, you know, here's a man who had studied, here's a man who had probably dipped into the esoteric of things and knows that you cannot keep a people down.
And by the time he got to the Panthers, he had a lot of practice. Going back to, let's start at Marcus Garvey. That was,
you know, if you want to look at it and say he did probably did the same thing as what the Nazi did, the same tactics, you know, to go in. You know, the only thing that they didn't, well, they did, they put a lot of them in prison, you know, and they put them in the gas chamber, you know, but they put a lot of them in prison. But while we were talking on the Black Panther Party, and earlier you mentioned that the Rastas were one who came to trot down the system, and I saw a clip just today. I think Miss G played this on her radio program last Sunday. A brother who sang the song Angola, you know, I Angola, and he was invited to Parliament to sing that song in Jamaica, and he went and right behind Portia Simpson, he's waving the Rasta flag and he's chanting the song. So the question, you know, like, do you see any similarities between the Black Panther Party in the early days, in the beginning of their rise, you know, and trying to step out of the system and Rasta?
Well, you see, just now you said Rasta, you kind of paraphrased that you understand me to be saying Rasta came to trot down the system. And I think that's the difference between my understanding of Rasta and the Black Panther Party. The Black Panther Party challenged the system in a way that is different from the way Rastafari addressed the system. In that Rastafari was, in essence, as I understand it, and going back to the earlier times, a separatist movement.
Right.
All right. Didn't come to fight the system.
Right.
But to create their own.
To create their own.
And a model different from what the other system operates. And I think that's the difference between the Panther and the Rastafari movement, in that the Rastafari movement was not about to get involved in politics and the administration of, no, they were about repatriation. Just leave it alone. Let's
Leave it
move.
alone. Go.
And while we're here, we're going to set up our own liberty, then, so to speak. Not necessarily seek to convert, change, challenge, or any of that.
Right.
Only challenge to the extent that we're not going to buy into. But we're going to take away ourselves and live the liberty we know to be appropriate for people.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. Enough sense.
Boy, you question me upon Rastafari, and like me's a student, brethren.
No, man,
the teacher them soon come.
Brother.
You see Pamela, man?
Yeah, Miss G, you see I'm humble. You know?
And Mindful 13 is reminding us that the name of the artist is Jabooks. Let's see. Looking at the chat room, we've been joined by A. Klein. Greetings and welcome, A. Klein, joining us in the chat room. Miss G says, violent assaulted them, but hey, don't judge. Mindful 13 says, the scramble and partition of Africa will always be ongoing until the African continent take their stand.
True that. His Majesty said, Africa await its creators. I've always pondered that thought. Africa await its creators.
It's funny you said that, because I was just going to say, until the African continent take their stand, I would expand that to say until the African peoples, Africans on the continent as well as those of us in the diaspora need to be a part of that stand.
Right.
And I pointed out on Thursday evening that, we were talking about this whole money thing, that it was Michael Manley in the 1970s who took a stand and initiated the economic boycott of apartheid South Africa.
Right.
Now, like I said, we can talk about if we were a country here, we would be 8th largest. But with all of that $1.3 trillion, it was a poor Jamaica who had the intestinal fortitude to say to the world, we need to pursue an economic boycott against South Africa, which eventually contributed to the downfall of apartheid. So it's not about how much money you have.
Right.
Is where your mind at.
And it was also Michael Manley who went to the UN in 1972 in his speech and literally tell the big countries, like, we the people in the Caribbean can hang with one affair if you take your foot off our back, And as a matter of fact, the dollar, I think the dollar was then 1-1, and by the time he reached back to Jamaica, it started to climb. They were like, we got to punish this man.
Absolutely.
So Michael, the whole of Jamaica was punished because of the statement of one man, and then Aristide, who was freely elected in Haiti, went to the United Nations. If you listen to Aristide's speech, he literally was saying the same thing. And I listened to that speech, and he called out what the world was doing to, so-called third world countries, And he said, if you take our foot out, if you do the same thing, if you leave us alone, we can prosper just like any other country, And he didn't make it back home. He did not make it back home. And when I was listening to that speech, I was like, it hit me that this man was brave, because so many had made that speech, and their system was destroyed.
Well, so many of us are, like I said, so downtrodden that people like Aristide, Michael Manley, Maurice Bishop, Thomas Sankara stand out like, they are the anomalies here, because again, white supremacy has been extremely successful in messing with our minds.
Right. But my thing with white supremacy of man, and to the European listeners out there who are what white supremacy, and even, white supremacy have managed to cloak themselves in the fabric of life that, it's hard to see them. And so when we talk now, them things that we're crazy, and
explain that when you say they've been.
All right. You take, when people hear of the Catholic Church, most people just think of the Catholic Church as a little religion, not realizing that the Catholic Church is a nation.
Mm-hmm.
Have their own banking system. The Vatican is a country. The Vatican City. Rome itself. They have traders,
mm-hmm.
people who go out and invest money. When people think of the little Catholic people who go to church and Sunday go to and give them not think that far.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying that white supremacy, when we say white supremacy, most people think we talk about the little Ku Klux Klan man, who himself is also fighting, who himself, I believe, was duped by the real by this power of white supremacy, and so, they stand behind it. I'm talking about the Rothschild, talking about the Rockefellers, these people who run the system.
Well, if what you're saying is true, and I hope it's not true, if our people, when we say white supremacy, think that that's limited to the Klan and such fringe elements in the white world, then we're in worse shape.
But that's what I'm saying. I think the white supremacy goes beyond the Klan.
Well, obviously it does.
Yeah, it goes beyond the Klan.
I'm saying that if our people believe that the term white supremacy is a reference to the Klan,
there's a lot of
skinheads, and other such fringe groups only.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who actually believe.
Then we're sicker than I think.
Yeah, a lot of people who believe, and that's what the real white supremacy did into the Buckingham Palace, then, so to speak. Were able to stay behind the curtain and pull the puppets of these people. So we thought that the Ku Klux Klan man was the one to point the finger at.
Mm-hmm.
And I am saying to my people, go beyond that, and that's what Bob Marley and all of these great, people who came along and say, this is bigger than, the little man who are run around on a burn cross.
In the chat room, Miss G says, and you may have to elaborate, Miss G, we kind of moved along and I'm not sure what point of the conversation. You said, I was not happy with it. I thought he was just being used as a backdrop. Not sure what that reference is, but I want to say greetings and welcome to Ras Sema Selassie.
Blessed, welcome.
Welcome. Greetings. Yes, we're just kind of having a little
reasoning.
early reasoning before the heavyweights come in and help us break it down and share some insight. But this is
real talk.
The Coalition to Preserve Reggae Music, and I think shouldn't we drop some music in here?
Yeah.
I think you had a thing set up for that.
Burning Spear, calling Rastafari, and we need to echo that again. There was a time when the Rasta man was looked upon, and we are still looked upon around the world. We are still revered as a mystical people. You go anywhere in the world, and people still look at us and say, we have the answer. We are the warriors, and we need to get back to that.
Huh. Is it there?
Yeah.
Am I seeing it there? Do you see Burning Spear? Is this Burning Spear? Yes, I think that is it. Let's see if we can do that.
Calling Rastafari, sons and daughters of His Majesty, sons and daughters of His Majesty. Rastafari want one executive body to represent all Rastaman, to represent represent all Rasta woman, represent all Rasta people, calling Rastafari, calling Rastafari, sons and daughters of His Majesty, sons and daughters of His Majesty. Now you're one Rasta. Shanti, 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 one Rasta. 12 tribe of Israel, one Rasta. Bobo, one Rasta. African Federation, one Rasta. Calling Rastafari, calling Rastafari. Sons and daughters of His Majesty, sons and daughters of His Majesty. We talk about repatriation is a must. It's not physical, it's educational. Calling Rastafari, calling Rastafari. Sons and daughters of His Majesty, sons and daughters of His Majesty. We got to talk about the need for a leadership. To be a leader, a big responsibility. His Majesty know, yes it's true. Jah know. Chanting Africa before His Majesty come to Jamaica, calling Rastafari, calling Rastafari. Sons and daughters of His Majesty, sons and daughters of His Majesty. You're going around and around and around, getting confusing. Action, positive action, no disrespect. Remember our plan, remember our plan. Calling Rastafari, calling Rastafari. Sons and daughters of His Majesty, sons and daughters of His Majesty. Calling Rastafari, calling Rastafari, sons and daughters of His Majesty, sons and daughters of His Majesty. Come in, Rastaman, come in, Rasta woman, come in, come in.
Calling Rastafari, and we are pleased that so many of you turned out this evening to participate in this reasoning. And before I introduce our first guest, I want to remind you all, or for those of you who don't know it, we are the Coalition to Preserve Reggae Music, and this is Reggae Month. And in Reggae Month each year, we start a series of forums called the Community Conversation Series. This is our 8th annual, or 8th cycle of doing the Community Conversation Series, and that begins in Reggae Month each year. Black Heritage Month, Black History Month, African Heritage Month, African History Month. Call it what you will. I call it African Heritage Month, as we talked about earlier. And so in African Heritage Month and Reggae Month, we start our forums. We do one each month, right through June, which happens to be Black Music Month. And we discuss issues pertaining to the music, the industry, and just our liberty. This, of course, being African Heritage Month, this evening's presentation is a part of that. But our very special reception to kick our forum off begins on the fourth Thursday of the month each year. That happens to be next week. And we have a very special program lined up for you next week. We'll have some very special guests coming in. The topic of the evening is questions for our souls. What is reggae? Now you might say, what am I talking about? What is reggae? Everybody know what reggae is. You'd be surprised. But last year, Billboard magazine named Joss Stone the reggae artist of the year. And we scratched our heads and had all kinds of discussions around the community internationally as to how could that be. Her album, Water for Your Soul, was the reggae album of the year. And of course, the easy explanation was that Billboard is really counting units sold. Some people would question, how did Water for Your Soul get to be a reggae album in the first place? And if it were so successful, I might add, how come it wasn't nominated for a Grammy? But that's a whole nother matter. We spoke to Billboard about it, and Billboard agreed to join us for our State of Reggae reception. That's what we call our kickoff forum, the State of Reggae reception. And this is going to be a great evening. Want to invite all of you to be a part of it by joining us in studio if you can. We have a small space. We want to have a small studio audience here. But if you're not able, please join us online. It's going to be a very, very important conversation. Participating in the conversation will be Alex Vitulis, who is the Associate Charts Production Manager at Billboard. Alex Vitulis will be joining us for the conversation. Miss Pat Chin, founder of Randy's Records and VP Records, been in this industry going on 60 years. It's in her 6th decade. She will be here. And also here will be Sharon Gordon, who is a cultural expert, advocate, and happens to be the chairperson and co-founder of the Coalition to Preserve Reggae Music. So we'll be having some great conversation. I might also let you know that our forums take place in what we call three-part harmony. We start with the main piece, and then we add commentators, and then we have Q&A. Those are the three components. Those are the three voices in our three-part harmony. And our commentators, not sure if I can name one yet because it's not necessarily not confirmed, but pending. Let me say pending is Agent Sasko, who tomorrow, as a matter of fact, drops an album called The Theory of Reggaetivity. The Theory of Reggaetivity. Now, you know where that comes from. And also joining us will be someone we honored some years ago with the Pinnacle Award, Mr. Big Youth will be joining us for this forum as well. Will be one of our commentators. So it promises to be a great evening. Ms. G says you could say that it's being sorted out. It's all about the relativity. Agent Sasko, you may know him as Assassin, will be one of our commentators. Our commentators will listen to what the panel talked about and then offer some comments on what went down.
Did you say the legendary Big Youth?
Manly Buchanan, Big Youth.
That's more than
Had a great conversation with my brethren last evening, and he says, yes, I'm going to be a part of it. I wouldn't miss it for nothing. You know I love CPR. All you have to do is call, and if I can, I will. And in this case, I can and I will. So Big Youth will be joining us to comment as one of our commentators. And of course, those of you who come in studio will have first dibs at raising questions with the panel when we get to the Q&A. And we're going to keep it real tight so we have enough time, a lot of time for Q&A. So, yeah, that's what it looks like. The State of Reggae Reception 2016. The 8th annual State of Reggae Reception.
And while we're on the topic of legends, I just want to make a shout out to Ansel, who I found out that a group of Rastafari family members made a tribute to my son, and Ansel was one of them who contributed to the funds of my son, of getting him back here to the States.
Well, for those who don't know about your son, let's take a moment to say what it is about your son, why this is happening.
Okay. Yes, so for those of you who don't know about, well, yesterday was a month ago that my son traveled to Barbados to be at the going home ceremony of his grandmother, and about an hour after he landed, he was just enjoying the air and walking freely and enjoying the air in a car, not probably understanding the nature of the island. Car come around and hit him, and he was in a coma. He's still in ICU, but he was in a coma for over 2 weeks, and he spoke his first word like 3 days ago. He said, "Mommy," and yesterday they went back to look for him. My daughter came up, and he was able to, my big daughter came up, and he was able to say bye to her. And today my wife went back to look. He said he spoke some more, and he's asking questions like, today asked a question like, what happened to my feet? Why my feet not working? Because he's still on feeding tube, So for the first time, he's been getting some water and drinks, and they give him water and stuff like that to get his body back into, So he's trying to move his feet, and his feet not moving. So he's asking his mother what happened to his feet, So he is conscious and is aware of where he is, and he's also aware of how he got there. He's aware of how he got there, so there's no memory loss, which is one of the things that we were worried about, And
okay, all right. Give thanks.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to mention Ansel, because he was on tour and he called up Sister Coochie and said, Sister Coochie said, put something in there for me, So I give props on to all the people who turn out from CPR. Mama G, you sound the Abeng, you sound the gang for us, and I've seen their names, and my wife is reaching out to each one via email to say thank you. But as I am here now to the CPR family, and that's what CPR is all about. We are family. For those of you who are just tuning in, we are a family.
Calling Rastafari, and we ask all of you to keep Ikari in your prayers. He's not totally out of the woods. He will have to come back to this country and undergo rehabilitation, and it's going to be a long walk back to wholeness.
Right.
And we want to keep him in our prayers. Glad to know that our 2015 Pinnacle Award recipient Ansel Meditation stepped up and did what he did. Now, someone asked me yesterday, one of the CPR member who contributed, says they've been checking the updates on the site where the contribution was made. And I think the information there might be a little bit behind what you're telling us now. So,
okay, so I will. Yeah, my wife been bogged down. She's the one who used to write the update, because she's the one there,
Yeah.
And I will, because she does. We got a good update about 3 days ago. I will find out if she did post it on the page.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I will tell her to make sure.
Because I had this conversation Tuesday evening, and this person was asking, so he came out of the coma yesterday.
Right.
And I said, no, he's been out of the coma for a while.
Right.
In fact, he just spoke for the first time yesterday.
Yeah, I will tell her to make sure she updated properly.
Yes, the folk who are rooting for him and are checking back to see what the progress is, are, it would be nice to keep them as up to date as you can. I know it's a stressful thing, and
I think Mama Kasim, I think you're listening right now. I think she's in Barbados. You're tuning. So if you're tuning and you're hearing, please update the GoFundMe page. All right, Mama Kasim?
All right, all right. Well, we've been going at it for a minute, and in a minute or two, we'll be going to join our other guests. So why don't you introduce our first guest?
I'm gonna introduce Brother Randy Fagan, aka Uncle Randy, and Randy, tell the people about yourself. What I love about Randy is a soldier from the way back from the 12 tribe days. All right, so tell the people about yourself, Randy.
Well, not much of a horn tutor, but I mean, been out there, everybody knows.
I don't really have to say that much about
Brethren,
yes,
I don't know you. I want to know something about you. Talk. What do you, man?
All right, so most people who hear the name associated with table tennis because I was a representative of Jamaica in table tennis for over 20 years. I was a national champion, Caribbean champion, all of that. So that's where most people know me from. But I also have a deep background in the music business as well. And I've been, as Jamaicans, I tried Rasta from like about 1975, 76 as a youngster going to KC, during those days of the fire when Jamaica was like a very militant place.
Right.
And
what year was that? When Jamaica was militant?
In the 70s, like 75, 76, those days.
Okay.
The reason I say that is because like during that time, reggae music was basically controlling Jamaica. Let me give you an example. You remember that song that Culture did, 2/7's Clash?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So on that day, the 7th of July, 1977, I was coming from school. I was going to KC at the time, and I was coming from school. I was downtown Kingston, waiting on a bus to go home to Vineyard Town, where I was living at the time, and the streets were empty because everybody knew the song Live and Bamba Ye when the 2/7's clash, and everybody was scared that something was going to happen. So that was the kind of hold that reggae music had on the psyche of the people at the time.
But also, was it reggae that had the control, or it was what the Christianity had placed in the, because culture just echo, something, what I live on Bombay when it was the 3/7, right?
It was the song was 2/7.
2/7's clash, right?
Yeah.
So was it because of what they had learned? Was it because of what they had programmed from the Christianity?
Well, I don't know what you refer to as the Christianity, but
the Christian system.
Well, I refer to it as Catholicism because there is a difference between Euro Christianity and real Christianity. I make that distinction because what we refer to loosely as Christianity is really a counterfeit version of what Christianity really was. And I hope I'll have an opportunity to go into that. So, but what culture was really talking about, a lot of statements, myths, prophecies, proverbs were attributed to Marcus Garvey. And that 2/7's class thing it was stated that Marcus Garvey had said that.
Okay.
We don't know if it's so because there are a lot of things that people have said over the years that Marcus Garvey said, which we don't really have any way of knowing if it's true.
Right.
Like, for example, the myth about the grandstand falling down and stuff like that. Marcus Garvey passed away over 20 years before the stadium was even built. So we don't know if he actually even referred to that. And so, there are a lot of myths, what I would call Rasta mythology.
Right.
Which is some of the things that we even want to talk about today because, like, for example, a lot of the mythology has been spread through the music. Right? Like, for example, a Burning Spear song, which he says, a lion crowned the king, which is not really borne out by the facts.
Okay.
It's just something that Rasta used to say. Maybe some chalice talk, but the king was actually crowned by an abuna of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. So you know that song when Burns played the lion crowned the king.
Could it be he was talking about metaphysical then?
It maybe could be, but a lot of our brothers and sisters took it literally.
Okay.
So that is one of the things now that came into the whole Rastafarian movement, which kind of...
All right, I tell you what,
Yeah.
we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves right now.
Okay.
Let's bring in our second guest.
Abba Yahudah.
And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of introduce him to you electronically first, while we contact him and bring him in telephonically, if that makes sense. All right, stand by.
Even when you don't know that you're on the journey, you're on the journey. You know what I mean? It's better to know though, so you can go someplace. We're here today to celebrate Abba Yahudah's work and the release of his new book. This journey is one of education. This one is a necessary one. It is a journey that will take us into the root, primordial space of the beginning of humanity. Where there is belief, there is superstition. Where there is superstition, there is suspicion. Where there is suspicion, there is no love. But for you to be a Rasta, you cannot believe, you must know. Find you in the midst of all of it. Be comfortable with you in the midst of all of it. Find your divine nature, live in your divinity, and move forward. Oakstop is a shared space business. We combine work with space for events and meetings and art.
Okay, all right, just a little bit of insight into our guest, and I believe we have our guest on the line. Are you there, my brother?
Yes, I am. Greetings.
Greetings, and I'll, Ras Osagyefo, adjust your mic, and you have the honor of introducing the brother.
Yes, brother Abba Yahudah, welcome.
Yes, beloved Osagyefo.
Welcome to CPR. When we first talked, when Brother Carlisle put this forward to me, one of the first guests because you, I think, one of the about zeal for knowledge, zeal for studying, and I have always admire and respect you for that zeal, and I wanted to bring you in, so so welcome to the program. This is CPR, this is Real Talk, Natural Mystics of Rasta, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And my brother, I am Brother C. Carlisle McKetty, and we're also joined by Randy Fagan in studio this evening. So we'll be reasoning a little bit. Go ahead, Ras.
Yes, so in the couple years ago, when when you used to live in New York, one of the things you have had many trads, you have.
Yes.
Well, before we do that, though, if I may,
right?
Could we get a little bit of sense of who
Abba Yahudah is?
Abba Yahudah is. Right. Yes. You have his stuff. No, I.
All right.
Go ahead.
So how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself then. You know, your works. You know, your bio. Because I came unprepared. This is my first time. No excuse still. You know.
Yeah.
Well, we did before you go, my brother. We did see a little bit of clip that introduced you. We got the sense from the clip that you're a graphic, a visual artist, and in the piece that Ras Osagyefo circulated, it said you're a musician, but and an artist, a performing artist. But put a little flesh on those bones for us.
Yeah. Well, greetings to the CPR listening audience. I am Abba Yahudah, and I am a fine artist, graphic artist as well, musician, and published author. The book is entitled A Journey to the Roots of Rastafari, the Essene Nazarite Link. You know, and it's a work that took over 20 years of my life to put together. You know, those days that Ras Osagyefo is talking about in Brooklyn, this book came out of some of those years of study and research and experience and trod, you know, and so it's compiled and illustrated by yours truly, Abba Yahudah. So it's available on Amazon. It's available at Trafford, you know, Trafford.com, Amazon.com. You can find it there as well. So, you know, that's one of the things that I'm passionate about is writing, you know, because I feel like I do fine art, and fine art is left up to a certain degree or a certain amount of interpretation. But when you write, you can speak specifically, you know, and leave less room for interpretation.
Okay,
yeah.
I see someone trying to get in on the phone right now, but we're not going to do that. Tell us about your writing. Is this your first book? Have you published other works? Tell us about your writing. You seem to have a passion for writing.
Yes, I started out in New York when a comrade artist friend of mine, I caught Pierre, who had a local paper called a Bed-Stuy Current. Heard me spoke at Ethiopian Cultural Arts Center and decided to approach me about writing an article on Rastafari for his paper, you know. And I declared that I wasn't a writer. You know, he said, no, you can write it, man. If you write it the way you speak it, you know, we can edit it and you can definitely do it. If you do it, I will publish it in the paper. So I started out the article and decided to write it in 4 parts, you know. Journey to the Roots of Rastafari, part 1, you know, the place, Ethiopia, then the people, you know, and then the thing, and then the man, Haile Selassie the First. And then the thing would be the Ark of the Covenant, you know, and then the man now becoming the embodiment of that Ark of the Covenant. So the journey was broken up into 4 parts. And I only got to the 3rd part in the newspaper and never did the 4th part. You know, so the 4th part became the book over the years. You know, and the writings are coming from a number of different spaces within me. You know, it's the esoteric, the metaphysical, the historical, you know, even the contemplative, you know, meditative space, and out of deep observation. And basically what this book is saying is that the Rastafarians of today are the fulfillment of ancient Essene prophecies. And a lot of people don't know what the Essenes are, you know, so...
Yeah. I was going to say, before we get ahead of ourselves to the deep stuff, when you were invited by the newspaper to write, they invited you to write about Rastafari, so you had to have been versed on it. Tell us about your journey to Rastafari. How did you come to Rastafari?
That's a long journey. I grew up in Jamaica, you know, and I used to experience a lot of Rasta people pass by my house, you know, going around to my neighbor's house, who happens to be my cousin. You know, and one of her sons was a Rasta as well. So, you know, I was just a little youth observing them, and I always feel like the Rasta, they have a nice energy, a loving, powerful, mystic energy about them. But I didn't really understand that they worship a man. That's the one thing I couldn't get over, you know. So, as a youth, I figured that's the one thing I need to understand. Who is this man? So I decided to study the man. You know, I did everything I could, every bit of information I could find on Haile Selassie the First and Ethiopia. When I find out about the man, I realized that this man is divine, just from his history and just from what I learned from the Bible. I realized that if you know this man, humanity, in his humanity, you'll find his divinity. And that's what happened to me. So I realized like the Rastas were onto something powerful, something potent, something radical, a whole new paradigm. And I felt like there's something highly intelligent about that. You know, and from the background that I was raised in, my father never even allowed me to draw white people when I was growing up as a youth. He said, don't draw white people. White people already fill up the earth with images of themselves. Look at the magazine, look at the television. He says, don't draw white people. Learn how to draw black people. When you can draw black people, you can draw everyone else. And, you know, that was one of the rules. Another one of the rules was that there's no image of Jesus in the house. You know, yet my father wasn't a Rastafarian. But he just realized like this image of Jesus is a white supremacist image that was used to condition our minds into seeing whiteness as superior. And it worked. It worked. Look at black people, the state of black people today. You know, you can see it. And so the hair straightening proclivity, skin bleaching proclivities is all tied to the psychological state of mind of black people through white supremacy conditioning coming straight from the Bible.
Wow.
So with that, I realized that my father was onto something and that the Rastas were onto something, and then I was onto something.
Let me interrupt you. You're a fine arts practitioner. And you mentioned that your father would not allow you to draw Caucasian images. Take us back to your early days and tell us about your engagement with art and drawing and how you journeyed that world as an artist, as a fine arts artist.
It's just a natural thing for me, you know. Art run in the blood, you know. So I never went to school for fine art. I went to school for design. Fine art, like I said, is something that I do naturally, and I started out drawing everything that I saw around me, you know, like super realistic drawing. I was influenced also by local artists that I saw in Jamaica. You know, one of them was Ras Daniel Hartman, you know, and Jennifer McDonald Henry, who was my uncle's classmate in Jamaica School of Art, you know. And so I kind of grew up with a lot of powerful images coming out of Jamaica, you know, and then that was augmented with a string of historical books, such as The Black Book, books like The Destruction of Black Civilization, African Civilization, you know, Sheikh Anta Diop, like books like this my father was reading as I was a youth. And so all of these books inspired me and helped to influence my path in terms of a love for Africa, a love for blackness. And so I grew up as a little youth with my eyes like wide open, you know, seeing a lot of things that people wouldn't pay any attention to. So I developed a very detailed eye. You know, I could capture the human image exactly as they are, and even aspects of their spirit in the image. So it's something that I mastered as early as 8-9 years old. growing up in Jamaica. And all of my teachers saw that and felt like I was gifted. So my father then declared to me that he didn't want me to go to art school either. And develop I get the impression or the feeling that what I was doing is something that I learned from external forces.
Father was a wise man.
Yeah, my father was one of my greatest teachers. One of the greatest men I know. It is him that I am trying to perfect in myself as a man because I know him.
Now, you mentioned...
And I realized that...
You mentioned that your father was not a Rasta man.
No, he wasn't a Rasta man.
What can you tell us
about... He was a Pan-Africanist.
He was that's what I wanted to ask you. Where was he coming from?
Yeah.
He was a Pan-Africanist.
Yeah, I grew up in Franklin Town, Jamaica, and left Jamaica early, and grew up in England. Places like Brixton, and came back to Jamaica as a radical because he experienced blatant racism in England, and so he developed a kind of mind now that he wouldn't normally develop in Jamaica because the kind of racism that you experience in overseas, like in England and America, is different from the kind of racism you experience in Jamaica. To the degree that Jamaican racism is steeped more in classism. You see, so in England now you find blatant racism. It don't matter how intelligent you are as a black person, you're still a black person. It don't matter what degree you have, you're still a darkie. So he developed a very brilliant mind and came back to Jamaica and helped to organize youth organizations all over Jamaica, youth clubs. One of the first woman cricket team formed in Jamaica. He's pivotal in that, And my cousin Yolanda Hall was like the captain of that. But my father realized that
I know Yolanda.
Black people conditioning came from colonialism, and the fact that the mind was colonized, it meant that the mind wasn't going to grow in its natural form, and he didn't want that to happen to me or any of his children. So he would condition us against the conditioning of the society in terms of inferiority complexes that was coming out of the magazines that you see where it's European. My father look at us and tell people, he say, look, if you see me walking down the street with a woman and her hair is processed, it's not my woman. Okay, those kind of things. He says, if you see me walking down the street with a woman and her hair is processed, you know for a fact that is not my woman. So, he's just serious about those kind of things, He just felt like we're black and we should be proud and we're African and we should learn about Africa and we should develop that kind of pride. No white dolly could exist in my house. Those things never existed. Those is the kind of training that we get when we were children. Black dollars. Every day we had to learn a new word, and we couldn't ask our father the meaning of words. He would say, go and learn it from the encyclopedia. That's why I have the library in there. Go and learn the word. Don't ask people the meaning of words because they have limited knowledge of things and sometimes wrong information too. So don't rely on them. Rely on the books.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons why I write books.
Yeah, man. And
because people will hear you talk and they, hear you say this and they say that and they won't even understand what you're saying. But when they read it in a book, they feel like it has more power or more validity.
Right. And that's exactly what King James and all of them knew about the power of words.
Exactly.
And books.
Exactly.
But I want to go back to
images.
Right.
And images juxtaposed with, because it's the images that they use, because if they allow your own mind and imagination to develop the images according to the words written in the Bible, then you would draw your own conclusion, and they couldn't allow that.
Right.
So they gave you images. So when you read those images, and those images are saying, this people is only one race of people in the Bible. And that means that these people are superior to you. Anytime you see them outside of the Bible, they are God-chosen people.
Right. So I'm going to go back to something that you mentioned. So when you came in your search and your study for Haile Selassie, you found that him to be divine. So
Yes.
we are all divine. So explain to us, how was Haile Selassie divinity or more divine than any other human being that walk on the face of the earth?
Okay. This is what happened. It's not that Haile Selassie the first was more divine than any other human being that walk on the earth. What happened to Haile Selassie the first, he found himself within a particular framework and a particular context.
Right.
Which allowed him to be able to fulfill the highest prophecies in the Bible. So you and I didn't have that. See what I'm saying? So as divine as we are in our own evolution and growth, we still wouldn't ascend. Look at Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey is one of the greatest we know. And that's why we say Marcus Garvey took a peasant background into royalty and even into divinity. The same thing, King Emmanuel did that also. But Haile Selassie the first had a background that prepared him to ascend unto the imperial dignity or to the superior dignity then above peasants. Because he was born into the house of nobles. So within him as an individual, he had a certain standard which he set for himself, which set him apart from other men. Okay? And he lived that standard. Okay? Now, Haile Selassie the first, as mystic as he was still functioning within the framework of Ethiopian orthodoxy and still couldn't function outside of it. He can only show us certain things, but to a limited degree, even within speech.
Right.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, I understand that, yeah. Brother Carla?
Yeah.
But a number of things bubbling up in my head, but I want to go back to something you said earlier. Speaking of Haile Selassie, you said that in his humanity, you will find his divinity.
Yes.
Can you speak about his place in Rastafari? The question of divinity, the question of humanity, the question of not being human.
Yeah, you see, the thing about it is this. People will say that Haile Selassie the first is man. You know, Rastafarians are worshipping a man. If it's a man, him die. You know. Well, yes, Haile Selassie the first is a man. And that is the beauty of it. Haile Selassie the first can die. That is also the beauty of it. Because you and I are men, and we can also die. But there are ways to rise above that. There's ways to rise above just being man. And there's ways to rise above the illusion of death. And Haile Selassie the first have shown us this in this dispensation of time. So we know that the power that Haile Selassie the first have as an individual, you know, is limited to the history of Haile Selassie the first's reign. So you want to study the man, you have to study his life. Okay. Now, when you study his life, now you don't have to make up. You don't have to make up any mystic stories to prove his divinity, because his divinity is proved in his humanity. You see, it's not like our Jesus Christ concept where him have to work miracles like walk on water and turn water into wine and all of those. These things are metaphors. Okay, and in reality, you can say Haile Selassie the first did turn water into wine. Yes, it's a metaphor for something higher. So how did he turn water into wine? Well, he made you and I, normal men, into gods. into princes, into kings, into princesses, into goddesses. Crude material, the base things. It's an alchemical process. And that is what salvation is all about. That's what redemption actually is, because salvation failed. And Haile Selassie the first then represents redemption unto salvation within the consciousness of Christ. So, I and I as Rastafarians today, the children of Haile Selassie I, represent that Christ that they crucified, that mystic that walk amongst men.
So we are the second coming.
We are the fulfillment of it. You see what I'm saying? There will be no other coming. We have arrived. It is I and I now that have to refine and purify the order.
Let's go back.
Because the mystery is revealed.
Let's go back. Let's go into your book, which talks about Ethiopia accepting Christianity as her sovereign faith after being a Judaic nation for centuries before Christ. Talk to us about the significance of, talk to us about what is a Judaic faith and the significance of Ethiopia accepting Christianity as her sovereign faith. Explain, break that down for us.
Okay. When we think of Christianity, we don't naturally, even though it is considered a white religion, because the central figure is Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ is a white man. You see, when we think in terms of that, yet it is not true. So the fulfillment of Haile Selassie I proves that Jesus Christ could not have been a white man, because Haile Selassie I is of the house of Solomon and David, which Christ is also of the same house. You see? So in that now, the fulfillment of Haile Selassie I ascending onto the throne of King David proved that the lineage of Christ is black and was preserved in Africa by an African sovereign who were Jews on the throne of King David in Ethiopia before they became Christians. You see, the significance of this now is that here you have, for the first time in history, and the only time in history, that a Judaic nation accept Christianity on the throne of King David and rule as a Christian nation with the titles of King of Kings, Lord of Lords, Lion of the tribe of Judah. Now, the significance of this is that if Christ is going to come, Christ would have to come in the first coming from Ethiopia, because Judaism was destroyed and Old Jerusalem was destroyed and was now preserved in Ethiopia. And this is BC. You see, and nowhere else on the earth was the seed of David and the tradition of the house of Israel preserved in a sovereign state, except for in Ethiopia. Okay, Christ wasn't even born. If this is BC I'm talking about. When the Ark of the Covenant left Jerusalem. All right, that came to Solomon in a vision that was going to happen. And he saw that the sun actually moved from where it was and set over into another land and remain in that land. That means now the gift and the blessing moved to Ethiopia. Old Jerusalem is of no more significance. Okay? So, within the context of that now, here we have a Jewish nation ruled by black people in one of the oldest countries on the planet, in Africa, in the Horn of Africa, in Ethiopia. And then now, you're telling me now that when Christ should come from a geographical location, he's going to come from the ruins of old Palestine, old Jerusalem, when the seed was already preserved in a newness in the womb of Mother Earth. in Ethiopia. So Christ did come from Ethiopia. You see? And in the second coming now, Haile Selassie the first did fulfill as the last of that lineage. So obviously, if Christ did not come from the time that the throne moved from Old Jerusalem to Ethiopia, if Christ did not come from that time until the end of Haile Selassie's reign, he's not coming because he has no place on the earth to come. Because there's no place on the earth that has preserved the titles and the throne of King David that is ascribed unto the Christ in a political system anymore. That is even finished with in Ethiopia. So you see the significance of it?
Yeah.
If people are going to be looking for the Christ, they will have to look in the history of Ethiopia for that, for the second coming, naturally.
In terms of the Old Jerusalem that you speak of, and the lineage that Emperor Selassie comes from, you're pretty much making a case then that the people in Palestine, in Old Jerusalem as you call it, the Israel, if you will, was indeed a black nation.
Oh yes, all of this is black people thing. None of these, no major religion was created in Europe, not one of them. And the three major religions right you're talking about right now is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And none of those was created in Europe. And only one of those three religions, the white man don't have any autonomy on. And that is Islam. And that's why Islam has been branded a terrorist religion. Because he has autonomy on Judaism and he has autonomy on Christianity. And now Rastafari rise, and if we're not careful, him has autonomy on that too.
Talk to us about Rastafari rise.
The Rastafari rise is the answer to an ancient call and a fulfillment of ancient prophecies. You see? And you can find it in the Bible, but we don't need Bible. We don't need Bible to prove Rastafari legitimacy. You see? And that's one of the things that we have to know within this time. And that from the days in New York when we were groundings as royal apostles, Osagyefo know this. We use every form of literature to prove Haile Selassie the First. We use dictionary, we use history book, we use films, we use everything that the white man have said about Ethiopia and Haile Selassie the First to prove our point. You see, so when you go deep into it, you realize that the rise of Rastafari is a threat unto a system that have conditioned black people into an inferior space, psychologically, spiritually, and economically. And Rastafari answering that call of the black cry come with black supremacy, which is black divinity, which is righteousness and truth. So when you go into that now, you are asking yourself, but isn't when you say supremacy, isn't that just as evil as white supremacy? No, white supremacy is a farce. It's an ego. It's a beast that is out of control, that rule according to a limited mode of righteousness, but there's no righteousness in it. So what you're saying now is that one race is superior over another race. And not just one other race, but all other races. And in truth and in fact, the people that is saying that they're a superior race is not even a race of people. You see? So now when you look at it now, Rastafari is saying what you are talking about as the head of your white supremacy, which is your Jesus Christ, and your Christianity, which you used to hold high in slavery. We're going to use that now and show you the righteous thing, which is a historical fact. So there you go. We use National Geographic magazine 1931 issue to show you that, look, this is what happened in history. And when you read it, it sounds like Bible.
That's true.
Okay? And so you're asking yourself, no, this is happening in Africa. How is it that black people is not seeing this and understanding what is happening? The reason why is because white supremacy already hold their mind in Jesus, in Christianity. So therefore, now God cannot be black. But if all of this was happening in Europe, they would recognize it that Jesus Christ did come. And so the fact that black people don't recognize what Rasta recognize, it means that white supremacy rules. And it rules from a psychological space. So in order for Rastafarians to see that Haile Selassie the First is the Almighty manifest in black Africa, it means that white supremacy didn't have them psychologically. They were able to see their true nature and their true self. And in that now, Rasta answer that call at the expense of their own lives. So they're going to bear witness now of their own accord, of their own will to the second coming, which is what was promised. That in that time you shall know I, because I shall be in you and you shall be in I. You see, so Rastas come to bear witness to Haile Selassie the First, so that Haile Selassie the First don't have to say that he is God. It's Rastas going to say that. And when Rastas say that, Rastas bury white supremacy. You see? And when that no, that's when the fight begins.
Well, before the fight get any further, we're going to bring into the conversation Uncle Randy, who has his credentials as a Rasta man, and can speak also on the issues of Rastafari. Randy?
All right. So the concept of Rastafari evolved around how do we define the divinity and how do we apply the divinity of Emperor Haile Selassie I. That's what it's all about, because Rastafari was his name, right? So now, how do we as a people justify, first of all, the divinity? How do we explain it and how do we apply it? That's the question at hand, right?
Well, I think Ras Abba just offered his
so I'm going to offer mine.
The divinity. So
exactly.
come with it.
Yeah, okay. So this is the thing now, right? When we started the movement of Rastafari in Jamaica, we didn't really know a lot about Haile Selassie, you know. We knew of the image and personage of Haile Selassie, but we weren't aware of his writings, his teachings, what his beliefs were. We weren't aware of any of that. That became more apparent now when knowledge started spreading and we started research and all of that, right? So originally it started with just a concept of some people in a small little island somehow developed this concept that this person is divine, right? So now, within all of that, it was poor people, underprivileged people, people who weren't necessarily learned in the formal sense. So because it was coming from those people, the society as a whole looked at it as a derogatory thing, because it wasn't coming from so-called higher ups or society or learned, right? So
exactly.
Yeah. So now that leads to the question, and like, how do we justify this, right? Because what I've noticed is that some people make him out to be less than he is, and some people make him out to be more than he is.
Can I say that something?
Yeah.
I remember because we started, Abba Yahudah used to live in Williamsburg, and Sunday evening time. As a matter of fact, it was at any time you go to his house, There was always a reason. Like Fred Lock, you know, and man like that would be at his house, you know. And after seeing some visions, I would express to them about the visions, you know. But at the same time, there was a nervousness of coming out and yelling Rastafari, you know. You know, and I don't know if you remember this, Leo, we were in the studio.
I remember,
Yeah, we were in the studio, and Leo wanted me to put some, you know, like say Rastafari in my poetry, you know. And I'm like, in my spirit, I can't do it to please anyone, you know. And then Leo was like, but man, you see things more than what most people have seen, you know. So it's like it take you a while. Like I always said, even though I saw it, I still had to go and shake out what was planted in me by the conditioning to be able to stand up firmly and say, I don't care what nobody say, you know, brethren. I know who I am and I know what I know.
Right. So within that now, though, right? There is the culture of Rasta, right? But there's also the theology of Rasta, and there's a difference. The culture of Rasta evolved around the reggae music, the weed, the ital food, the locks, and the dressing and all of that, right? But then, what is the theology of Rasta? How do we...
You asked a very important question.
Yeah.
You know, you say, how do we justify the divinity of Haile Selassie the First? And Rasta is not here to justify the divinity of Haile Selassie the First. Rasta is only here to recognize the divinity of Haile Selassie the First and bear witness to Haile Selassie the First. That is what Rasta is here to do. The divinity of Haile Selassie the First is seen in his humanity. That's why it's important for us to know him. And then, therefore, Rastafari becomes a journey and a trod. Because, you know, there is no... Rastafari is a Jamaican thing. It's not Ethiopian. It's Jamaican people make that up and them call it Rastafari. It's not pronounced... His name is Ras. That's one word. That's a title. And then the other part is Piffery. And so, in Jamaica, in Jamaica we say Rastafari. So now we make up a thing. And so that's that shroud now. That shroud, what we call a movement, it has to, you're following the footsteps of Haile Selassie the First. That's the journey of Rasta. That's supposed to be the journey, anyhow. Now you're going to follow the footsteps until the point where you don't find any footsteps. The footsteps of Haile Selassie are going to stop. And they're going to stop at the throne of Haile Selassie the First. At that point, now Rasta have to then make a choice to either move up into the throne, to seat up in the throne, and that's what we would call enlightenment in the general theology of a neophyte moving in the journey up into higher levels.
But Yahudah, let me interrupt you for a second, right? Look here now. The reason I brought that up, right? Because you have Rasta who say Bible, you have Rasta who say Bun Bible. True?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
So what I'm saying then is that within the trad of Rastafari, there has to be some kind of cohesive theology as to what we're dealing with.
Yeah, there is. There is a general theology.
Yeah, there is a general theology surrounding the name of Rastafari. We understand that. I will know that there's
there's a general theology though. There's a general theology where Rastafari is concerned. But then one can be either a part of the Bobo Shanti, the Nyabingi, or the 12 tribes. Now that will pinpoint and fine-tune particular tribes for those individuals according to that order.
No, I understand
but
that.
But there are individuals that is not a part of any of those orders, that is Rastas anyway. And what is it that they know why they say they're Rasta? It's a general thing.
That's what
Haile Selassie the First is the Almighty Manifest. That is a general thing.
Let me ask this question of both of you. Because, I think, well, let me ask a question. Aren't you both saying, though, that Rastafari is a made-up thing?
Well,
Well, it's a made up thing, you know. It's not. When I say made up, you know, it means that, like I said, Rastas are bearing witness to Haile Selassie the First. So outside of Haile Selassie the First, there is no Rasta.
And yet, Uncle Randy says these were unlearned poor people in Jamaica who didn't really know too much about Emperor Selassie. The scholarship came afterwards.
Yes.
But the Rastafari liberty and development
was manifest before that.
Yeah. So I ask again, isn't this really a made up thing, much like Christianity and much like Islam and much like any other spiritual movement?
So let me put my 2 cents into that. All religions evolve out of man's search to understand himself and his place in creation.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
So because of that now, religions generally reflect one's culture. But because of the unique situation that Western black people found themselves in due to the whole slavery debacle, right? We didn't have anything that resembled us to identify with. So that is the roots of Rasta. Our search as people of African descent, first of all, that's where it began, to identify and qualify our existence within creation. So
exactly.
So that was the start. But what I'm saying now, as things started to evolve, right, each individual started putting his own stamp onto how he viewed what Rasta meant to him as a person. Because I tell you, if you talk to, in those days, as a youngster growing up in East Kingston, right, if you talk to 15 different Rasta, you get 15 different reasoning.
And you know why?
Huh?
Because it's Rastafari. It's not.
You're breaking up, brother. You're breaking up.
Okay, let me hear. Can you hear me?
You're much better, yes.
I says Rastafari is based on revelation. It has to be revealed to you. So when it revealed to you, of course, because it's not taught to you by someone, one's going to have to organize themselves after a while.
Yeah.
And say, well, you know, while we cite the same thing, we have to go organize this. And that's really what happened, because Rasta is coming through revelation.
All right, so let
You know?
me just tell you a brief story, right? I'm trying to put this thing in the context of what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get to a specific point. All right, look here now. In 1983, right, there was this cassette circulating throughout the Rastafarian community of an interview that Haile Selassie did in Canada. Right? It was Expo, I think 67 or 68 or something like that. He was interviewed on a train. Right?
67.
Yeah,
yes.
Expo 67. And the interviewer said to him, many people all over the world, including Christians and Rastafarians, say that you are the returned Messiah. What do you say? And he said, I am a mortal man, and I shall be replaced by the oncoming generation. Now, when I heard that, I couldn't fathom it, right? Because this, to me, sounded like basically the king was denying being who he said he was.
Who said he was?
We Rastafarians.
Okay.
He was denying who he said he was, because they asked him if he's returned Messiah, and he said no. So I was making a copy of the cassette, and I edited out that part because I couldn't hold it.
Yeah, but he never said no.
So now, hold on. So a couple years later, I became a member of the 12th tribe of Israel, right? And I stayed on the veranda of the HQ just to talk to the Prophet God, right? So when he came out, I started asking him questions from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., right? And he said to me, youth, You see like how you as a youth and you ask so much questions, I want to know so much things. I'm going to tell you everything. That's what I'm saying to me. I'm going to tell you everything. So now this is the explanation now you gave me of the divinity of Haile Selassie as a member of the 12th tribe of Israel. Right? This is what he said to me. He said to me that the king that sit up on the throne of David represent God. That's what him said. And I said, what do you mean? And him said to me, if you get stuck on the individual person, it becomes idol worship.
But let me ask you a question. So Leo says, let me go back to Abba Yahudah. You said something.
Yeah. You
said something earlier when you say we are here to be a witness, right? And when we be a witness that Haile Selassie, we are here, so we not to go back. We not to go out and say anyone say Haile Selassie is God. We continue that trad, right? Then you come to that. When we come to the throne, we have a place. We have a choice. All right.
Yes.
We have a choice to ascend the throne and become Haile Selassie. Or walk the path as Haile Selassie. Alright, and that is why I believe Rastas today are in so much, because they come to most of them have not reached that place of the throne yet, and the ones who come to the throne don't realize that in order for us to go on, I must take on the royal tradition of Rasta, walk the face of the earth and become Rasta, rather than saying King David, become King David. So
that's basically what I'm saying.
That is how I interpret. And when I see Rasta, when I see the 12 tribe, when I see Bingi, when I see all of them, I see ones and ones who have not reached that place yet, to walk, to take on the light and walk with the light.
So let me ask you a question then, because I mean, look here now, right? We know that Haile Selassie proclaimed himself to be a Christian. Is that true?
That is history, man.
Huh?
That is not. There's no dispute.
All right.
There's no dispute over that.
All right. So then, if Haile Selassie declared himself to be a Christian,
yeah,
we who are the sons of Haile Selassie, what are we?
But I and I are Rastafari. You say that, I and I said that.
Yeah, so then what? You're going against the king teaching?
We're not going against the king's teaching. The king is a Christian and he worship a Jew. Why is he not a Jew?
He is a Jew.
Then therefore I and I are Christian then.
That's what I'm saying. So
because
the reason I'm saying this now, right? This is what I get into.
You hear what you just said a while ago, though?
Yes, I get you.
You hear what you just said a while ago?
Yes. Which is true, but this is what I get into. We allow white Christendom, Babylon system, Catholicism to take away Christianity from us. Because the concept of Christianity is the divinity of God within man. It's a simple concept. The concept of Christ is that
Rasta is living that out, but Rasta is living that out.
Man.
Rasta living that out is first. Huh? Rasta commands the man is God,
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Which is the essence of Christianity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna take a.
So therefore.
Hold on, we're gonna take a little break and allow people who are stuck to them seat right now. All right. This is nice reasoning. This is nice reasoning. So hold on, Abba Yahudah and Uncle Randy, we'll come back.
We're gonna break it down.
Yeah.
We're gonna break it down.
Yeah.
All right.
You ask I, who is Rastafari? Rastafari is I.
Yes.
I stand Rastafari. Every I stand Rastafari.
Natural.
I and I, Rastafari, Haile Selassie I. Rastafari is sun, moon and star. Rastafari is everywhere you are. It's snow, wind, rain. Yeah. Here comes Rastafari again. Again and again and again and again. Absolving your colonial hurt. Negating your colonial pain. From Rastafari we could never refrain. You ask I, who is Rastafari? Rastafari is colorless, north, south, east, west, purging away your colonial mess. Indeed, Rastafari is the highest. Rastafari is king of kings, wood, stone, iron. Rastafari is the conquering lion. You ask I, who is Rastafari? Rastafari is uncompromising. Rastafari is soul uprising. Rastafari is no disguising. Rastafari is divine love. Well, is this surprising? Ras Malikat, MDs that are live. Haile Selassie. All these things coming from my heart, critically.
Yes, see him living it like His Majesty.
Okay, we're back. We're back. Then we'll be joined in a minute. But let's take a look at some of what's going on in the chat room. Don't want to ignore the folk in the chat room. Let's see. Mightyful 13 asks, well, a client says, the gentleman on the phone is bringing some good reasoning. She says, is it a subculture in the general culture? Mightyful 13 says, my question is Rastafari an allegory? Well, Akiwoman says, that's one and one knows can bleach, not pay child support, have a harem of women. Okay. Let me hush, she says, because she's a little bit perturbed here. No, sis, just sickening, she says. Okay. All in the name of Rastafari. That's what she's saying. So, we're having some higher reasoning, and people are saying, meanwhile, back at the ranch, enough things are going on in the name of Rastafari, and they're not particularly good-looking things, is what I'm gathering from this. Let me know in the chat room if I'm gathering it incorrectly. And of course, Mightyful 13 wants to know, is Rastafari an allegory? Can we talk about any of this? Brother Abba Yahudah, you want to respond to some of what's going on in the chat room? Folk are talking and saying that meanwhile, ones can bleach, not pay child support, have a harem, all in the name of Rastafari.
You see, I'm not here to address that because that sounds like something personal, and I don't know what that is because it seems like it's geared towards something specific. We're talking about Rastafari in general, which means that is a broad topic.
But is this a part of Rastafari reality, though?
No. Rastafari reality in terms of people bleaching and having a harem of women.
Mm-hmm. Not paying child support, yeah.
I am sure this exists within Rastafarians. I am sure that there are Rastafarians that, have a harem of women, don't pay child support, are bleaching, yeah. But is that what we're here to talk about?
Well, we're here to talk about what is Rastafari, and is that a part of...
No, well, I understand we're here to talk about Rastafari, reggae music, and Haile Selassie the First.
Yeah.
You're within the context of that. And I figured that Rastafari is just the starting point. What is Rastafari?
But are you saying within the context of that, then those things are not on the table? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying that those things are not on the table. There's a lot of things that are on the table where Rasta is concerned.
Okay.
A whole lot of things.
Okay. Randy, you
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah, I
to
want
say
to
something?
say something. Just to kind of understand on a broader level, right? There is also a force, feeling or vibe within Rasta where a lot of Rastafarian men degrade women, right? So within that context, like women back in the day, a lot of Rastafarians used to treat women as second-class citizens. It's just a fact. A lot of Rastafarians say a woman have to walk 3 steps behind him. Woman can't look in him face when them talk to him. That used to be part of it, but you say that is the whole thing because people use religion or spirituality for a lot of different reasons.
And on that subject,
Yeah.
Abba Yahudah, all right. I understand what is going on in the chat room. There's a lot of gripe with Rasta. I have a lot of gripe, but there's a time and place for everything, all right. So
Exactly.
on that subject, I'm gonna ask you. You have been a part of. You are one who have brought women up from the 3 step behind. You know, you have been on the journey of the Mother Divine. You know, explain something about your journey on the Mother Divine, and explain something of that to us. So the sisters who are in the chat room know that this is a different type of Rasta. We're not the Rastas who put women down, not pay our child support. You know.
Before you do that, allow me to just share with the audience from your biography. It says Abba Yahudah, an African Jamaican male with a feminist perspective. Abba Yahudah is a conscious, visionary heart brother, deeply committed to the rebirth of the goddess, and with deep empathy for the suffering of black women, but also for the pain of the larger collective body of African people. The African diaspora, Ethiopianism, mysticism, and the Rastafarian experience inspire his art and writings. Just to speak to the Ras and the issue of women. So go ahead and respond to Ras Osagyefo.
Yes, beloved. You know, there has been a history of chauvinism, patriarchy that govern the psyche of the Western Hemisphere. You know, it is even in Africa. But in Jamaica, you know, where Bible is like textbook in school, a lot of what people learn is from the conditioning of the Bible, how woman's supposed to be in the context of a man or a husband. So, you know, the biblical reference has been heavy in the Jamaican conditioning in terms of how a man and a woman are supposed to be, because the Bible said the man is the head of the woman. You know, so the Levitical order is also been lived out in various orders within the house of Rastafari, in particular the Baba Shanti. And it's the process of purification and all of those things are biblical. But there has been a social conditioning to oppress women in general, whether it is religion or not.
Or economics.
You know, so as the black woman is black and she's woman, she's at the lowest rung of the social strata.
True.
Even within Rastafari.
So the black man,
Yes.
yeah, even within Rastafari,
Yes.
it is just now that man is loosening the grip that he has had in the oppression of the feminine divine. You see, it is just now that Rasta is coming into the fullness of his own the Rasta male is coming into the fullness of his own divine feminine, and it's been a struggle. You see? So you hear a lot of Rastas say, no, Rastafari, Haile Selassie, Empress Menenai. To include the meaning that they are including the feminine divine. But really and truly, when you say Haile Selassie the first, you're really speaking of the fullness of the male and the female. Because on Coronation Day, when you look and you say Empress Menen and you say Haile Selassie the first, that is the power of the Trinity right there. Male and female. To the power of the highest.
How is that the power of the Trinity?
When you say Haile Selassie the first. Yes, beloved.
I was asking you, how is that the power of the Trinity?
Because this is a principle. The power Haile Selassie the first is a principle before it is even a manifested man, beloved. It's a principle, in the church, you speak of Haile Selassie,
No, I was asking you
specifically.
You were saying that the coronation was a
No, I'm saying that the coronation, when Haile Selassie the first declare is a baptismal name, as this is his throne name.
Yeah.
When he declared Haile Selassie the first, he's not just declaring his name, he's declaring a principle as well.
Yeah.
And that is what Haile Selassie the first have to become for us as Rastafarians. He have to become a principle that we are living in the consciousness of on a day-to-day. So within the context of that, we have to bring the feminine in equality to the masculine. And that's what is going to balance us out.
Beautiful.
So explain this to me, though. If Rasta is modeling or patterning after the emperor insisted that the empress be a part of the coronation exercise.
Yes.
How then does Rasta then use the Bible to justify the ill treatment of women?
That is because the conditioning runs so deep. It's free ones. That's why Osagyefo was saying what he was saying earlier.
I'd like to talk about it.
He had to let go of some of the conditioning before he himself could say Haile Selassie the first.
1 foot in, 1 foot out, huh?
I'd like to address
exactly.
Not only that. Hold on, Randy. Randy gonna ask a question.
Go ahead.
All right. I want to say this. All right. Remember that Rasta had the Bible before we had the teaching of His Majesty.
Yes, exactly.
We had it. It wasn't until literature started to run more freely now that Rasta started to see even the like the autobiography of His Majesty, the other one that he the one that he compiled of his speeches, selected speech of His Majesty. It was then that it's even now that a lot of Rastas are now reading some of the things. I said, "Oh, that's correct. I got it wrong." Get it wrong, because they thought they were going, they still adhere to the Bible. One of the things that I love about going to the reason in Williamsburg in those days was, when you want Ijaman and everybody, when you are break down the Bible, I remember I used to go home and say, I don't understand a thing that you all just say, because it's like you all take the Bible and break it down so the layman could understand, But at the same time, for those of us who are still under the condition, we walked away a little bit confused, So
I am reminded of the words of the great British wordsmith William Shakespeare, who said, "The devil will cite scripture for his own purpose."
Yeah, I've known that.
That's actually in the Bible.
Yeah.
Well. Let me just, speaking of that though, in the chat room, Varja says His Majesty told us not to burn the Bible. So it is in His Majesty that we should return for further wisdom as we deconstruct the peace and politics of spirituality and religion. Can we talk a little bit about the intersection between Rastafari and religion?
Yes.
Before you go, let Uncle Randy wanted to say something.
Yeah.
But before I'm gonna say this. When His Majesty was asked what message do you have for the youths, he said, I would advise them, to read the Bible and seek secular knowledge, which means I might tell us that everything is not in the Bible. To seek secular knowledge, you know. So go on, Uncle Randy.
So I kind of get excited when the Bible come up in conversations, because as a Bible student, I've read the Bible 3 times cover to cover. I spent 10.5 years doing that, because, you know, if you read it a chapter, they take you 3.5 years to finish, right? So now, the most important thing I notice that people don't realize about the Bible is context. Everything that you read in the Bible is in a particular context. So in other words, then, it's not like how people take it as literal absolute truth. It's spiritual truth. For example, most people would agree that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, right?
Right.
But in reality, the sun don't move, though.
Don't rise nor set.
No, it don't rise nor set. The sun is static. The sun remains in one place. So how could it rise? So that's an example of a spiritual truth, different from what you describe as a literal truth. So it's the same way how you apply the Bible as a spiritual truth. So now you can't take everything literally, word for word, line by line like that, because of context. That's what I say about the Bible.
They that have eyes and see, but see not.
Yeah.
You know. So spirituality and religion, the Rasta have always declared, you know, that Rastafari is a trad, it's a liberty. It's not a religion. And I guess that's one of the reasons why Rastafari hasn't been organized like that from day one, you know. And so Rasta has been afraid of them kind of organizations that have been organizing people and rising people above each other, and, you know, corruption come in, and, you know, so that's one of the reasons why Rasta just kind of, some people just say, one away trad.
Yeah, but the king got to Jamaica and say organize and centralize, though.
Exactly.
So
exactly. I agree. I totally agree with that. You know, I totally agree. I am here for the community within the context of coming together and harnessing our resources and securing the future of Rastafari. You know, right now, reggae music as a medium could have done that to a great degree already, but outside of organization and administration, very little can happen. You know, and now the horse is through the gate and we're looking at the horse's ass, you know, and so we have to ask ourselves at this point, you know, some fundamental questions, you know, what is Rasta's long-term vision?
Yep.
You know, how effective is reggae music in social change?
Yeah.
You know, what is Rasta agenda? Did we change our agenda from it was reparation, repatriation,
repatriation still on the
equal
table.
rights and justice?
Can I ask you to speak on the intersection between Rastafari and reggae music?
Rastafari and reggae music, and that's another thing. You know, people just think reggae music is Rasta music. Reggae music is a pop music that come out of Jamaica. It's a
what music?
Music. It's a pop sensation.
A pop sensation.
You know, in terms of, it becomes that today. You know, when you look at the charts and you see what's happening in the world and the capitalist mind around it, you know, Rasta music is Nyabingi music. You know, and reggae music is just a vehicle that kind of got out of control, and other people in the driver's seat right now doing certain things with it a certain kind of way. But really and truly, at this point, I don't see that reggae music is healing the world per se. So I think that we should just use it to dig wells and build schools, you know, because it can do that. You know, we should be focusing more now on the philanthropic aspect of reggae music. You know, what can reggae music do now? It has filled the pockets of many capitalists worldwide. You know, can we now organize and centralize, you know, a body of individuals to create an administration that can create a philanthropic impact with reggae music. Yes, I think we can do that.
If you make that argument, wouldn't you just as easily make the same argument for Rastafari? After all, it is a European who holds the patent for red, gold, and green, filling the pockets of, so how do you say that of reggae music and not say the same thing of Rastafari?
I say the same thing of Rastafari. Rastafari has been appropriated.
And so we might as well just use it to dig wells and build schools, is what you're saying?
No, I says reggae music.
I know you said that. I know you said that of reggae music. But if Rastafari is pretty much gone the same course as reggae music, why not say the same thing of Rastafari?
Because there are individuals like us that see this and know that we have to make a change.
My brother, there are individuals like us who see the same thing in reggae music and see that we have to make a change. I don't understand the double standard.
True.
No, it's not a double standard.
But it is.
I'm simply saying to you, it's not that I don't have a double standard where reggae music and Rasta is concerned, beloved. I'm simply saying to you, reggae music has become a pop sensation.
And so has Rasta. So has Rasta.
Because of reggae music.
Oh.
Because of reggae music.
Well, I don't know because of what, but I know so has Rasta. And if because it has become a sensation, why do you offer one treatment for this sensation and a different treatment for the other sensation? That's where the double standard comes in.
No, I didn't create I'm not saying a different standard, or a different treatment, I'm simply saying to you this. Because of the popularity of reggae music, a lot of people know about Rastafari, primarily through Bob Marley. Okay? So a lot of people associate themselves with reggae music and think that they are Rasta because they locked up their hair, they smoke weed, they wear red, green, and gold, and them don't miss a reggae concert. But I'm saying to you, Rastafari is not Rastafari music. Rastafari music is Nyabingi music. That is Rastafari music.
Says who?
Reggae music is Jamaican music. You see? And we can use reggae music because it is a pop sensation at this point to do more than fill the pockets of capitalists. All right? We can also do that only through organizing and centralizing. The same thing that we have to do with Rasta. Mm-hmm. Okay? And if we had organized and centralized Rasta from Haile Selassie I, it said that reggae music would be a greater tool in the hands of Rastas, building schools, digging wells, and stuff like that all over Africa. Because the message is in the music, but the music is not building and doing the practical things that it could be doing, because people are making big money out of it.
I've heard the argument made that reggae music was most potent when studied Rastaman was involved in it. Now, the study of the Bible and whatever else is not a part of as much what goes into the making of reggae music. Has Rastafari failed the artist community?
That's interesting. You see, that's why I'm saying to you, I'm trying to show you that there's always been roots reggae going on. There's always been the intelligent voice in reggae. It's only they're not into the mainstream the same kind of way. It's just now you have youths coming up out of Jamaica that is reviving a certain kind of vibe where we grew up with and realize that this is a potent instrument and we can use it to do things. You have youth like Chronic, you have Kabaka, Pyramid, you have Protege, you have all these youths. You have Midnight, you have a whole bunch of artists coming out of St. Croix that has always held a standard that I always respect. So I know that these artists have always been there, but there's not as mainstream as like the Shaggy or Sean Paul or the Gong, Junior Gong. You know what I mean? That's kind of like up there. But when it comes to those individuals, you have individuals like Shaggy that do a lot with his influence and his money. Junior Gong do the same thing. But I'm saying if we organize a body within reggae music, within Rasta community, then those that play reggae music, we could then be the instrument and the vanguard for this new paradigm.
May I suggest, though, that the distinction, that in the same way that you make a distinction between Nyabingi music and reggae music, that you similarly make a distinction between reggae music and dancehall music, because the three artists you just named are dancehall artists. None of them is a reggae artist. Shaggy is not a reggae artist. Sean Paul is not a reggae artist. Junior Gang is not a reggae artist. But they're not reggae artists. But I
named reggae artists before. I named Midnight and I named other reggae artists before.
Who are doing positive, and then you call up three dancehall artists as I don't know what. But you want to say something, Randy?
No, but I show you to show you the contrast between the ones that make conscious music per se, that make roots music, as opposed to those that make dancehall music. Those are the mainstream ones.
Oh, but the ones.
That's what I'm showing you.
Yeah, what I call was onto something brilliant. He said something, I don't know if he even realized it. And he said about the scholarship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because back in the day, man used to gather and reason about stuff.
Yes,
right? And read stuff and discuss world affairs and spirituality. And that is what the music evolved out of.
Yes, I.
Right? Mm-hmm. So with the absence of that now, it's showing the absence of that.
Yes, I.
Yeah.
That man say.
Yeah, really. That's brilliant that you said that.
And that man talk about for a long time, Bridge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask a question now at the talk. The other day there on the Marley cruise, you are a painter, and your paintings speak biblical, your paintings speak deep, but you were commissioned, you know, to be on that cruise painting for charity. Why did they seek you out?
Well, they found my work online, and they, found the book, and they felt the book was potent, and the work was potent, and I feel like it would be a good representation for Rasta within the context of the kind of work that I do. And I welcome that, because I get to see really what's possible.
Okay.
And with that, I took the opportunity to suggest to them. I wrote them a proposal about exactly what we're talking about, using this influence that they have, bringing all these people on the ship, to focus a little bit more and put a bigger program around the philanthropic aspect of the cruise, which is the art program.
Right.
So,
and they agreed to it.
I just want to say
so obviously, I saw an opportunity where they started something, but they obviously didn't have a program around it. And I realized that if I put a program around it and direct it, more could be happening on the philanthropic side, because these people have the influence.
Ras, you said Rastafari then and now. And in the chat room, Ras Sema Selassie says, Ras O said it best. When I and I must take on His Majesty Haile Selassie I, like how Christians carry the cross. We must take on the image of the power of the Trinity. Remember, God has said, we won't take everyone to Africa because of their character. But my question is, how are we, I and I, the churches, going to link up and build a nation like the Jews for our stability?
Don't look at the Jews. Stop looking at them. Look within yourself. Start wherever you are. Wherever you are. You become a mirror. You become the light. Wherever you find yourself, you set up your temple, gather your brethren together. Right now in South Africa, let me tell you what's going on in South Africa. The youth, the Rastas in South Africa were catching a fight. They were selling their fruits on the highway and byways, and the system was giving them a fight. So they took their cars to the system and realized that we have to organize, and then they started a village where right now in that village there's probably over 30 families living in that central village, and people from all over now go there. One of the main the main financial system for them now is a club that plays reggae. You know, that people go there because that's one of the best places they can find reggae. You know, and that's what is needed. You know, we are in even right. So even right here now we are in New York, and people say, "Boy, we don't have a place." But it's most people want to start at the top. No, you have to start at the bottom. Find a community wherein is needed, and you start from there, and you start from there, and you build and you build and you build. You know, we have nothing like that. You know, we are individualized. We have become Rastas have become Rastas have become individualized. You know, and we were a collective people from that's how we started. When Pinnacle.
I wonder what the Bible has to do with that.
Nothing.
I think it has a.
It's economic.
You know, you talk about the Rastas who came out of Jamaica and Pinnacle. You know.
Okay, hold on. He says you ask what. I wonder what the Bible have to do with that.
Yeah.
The Bible have something to do with that. Let me show you what the Bible have to do with that. You see, black people lost their identity. The diaspora Africans, you talk about. You see, and when you look at how the Bible affect you, white supremacy affect it. It affect your self-esteem. It affect your sense of divine identity. Okay, and it sink you. There's a system developed to oppress you and sink you deeper into darkness of self and identity.
So why not just sell up to the Bible?
You're going to fight against yourself because the only thing, even in Jamaica, as a youth growing up, people used to say, you're black or you're red. You're either too black or you're too red. You see what I mean? And either way you find it's good or bad is in both of those things. And the blacker you are is the more evil you are according to the psychological conditioning. So the love, we don't have the love for self. We still don't love each other. That's why we don't trust each other. We can't build community if we don't trust each other. Our communities and our families have been broken down. You see, and because we have broken families, you understand, you have to use them growing up with a different kind of struggle. We have to unlearn a lot of things before we can start loving each other the kind of way we can start trusting each other to build real community. Because right now in America, the biggest illusion is that there's a black community. Like, black community is supposed to have certain infrastructure, and there's a certain amount of real estate that you own. And the infrastructure and the businesses in that community and the political representation, and it can go all the way up to the top. People don't just come in your neighborhood and set up liquor stores and those kind of things, according to how they please. It's not in everyone's community. So if we have a community, we call it a black community, then really what is that? What really, do we have scholarships for our children? So we're thinking we have to unlearn a lot of things to learn how to love each other, to trust each other again. And Marcus Garvey gave us a great example of what is possible when we organize and centralize. But one of the things is, there was only one Marcus Garvey. Imagine if Marcus Garvey had a panel of individuals like him. Right now, I think these individuals exist, but we're scattered all over. And it's through forums like these that we can speak and we can bring the thing together. We can come off of the air and we can continue the conversation. We must always follow up and follow through. And when we fall in love with each other, it's like male and female love. We have to find a way to build business with that when we're attracted to each other. Find a way, how can we support each other in building businesses and give our children a whole new form of education in terms of entrepreneurship. And, you're never too young, And so we have been learning from the system how to be employees in the system. And we children can't inherit our 9 to 5. So we have to learn now how to unlearn some of these conditionings that destroy our families and our communities.
Ras Osagyefo has a piece titled "Have We Fallen Short of the Glory of Rasta?" And again, I want to ask the question about the Bible, because Uncle Randy says that the Bible, it's a function of how we interpret it. And I asked the question about the individualism and its relationship to the Bible, because it would suggest to me if what you're saying is correct, then Rasta reading of the Bible is pretty much the same as the Christian reading of the Bible. And so we call ourselves Rasta, but we behave the same way that Christians interpret the Bible and are guided by the Bible. So what's up with that? Somebody help me understand.
I would tend to agree with you to some degree about that.
Ras Abba Yahudah, let me ask a question now. All right.
Yes, beloved.
The Bible. Answer this question now.
Well, okay.
Answer the question I'm asking.
No, that's gonna go to it because
okay now.
That's gonna go toward your question and your question.
All
right. Is it possible that
more questions and answers?
Is it possible that the Ethiopian Bible was written in Giza, right?
In Giza.
Yeah. All right. So when
translated into Amharic
and into Amharic, so the version that we get out here, coming from the Constantinople, breaking down of things, the King Solomon, is it possible that when they in Ethiopia, when they read the Bible, they see something different, they get a different reading that we get out here in the rest? Is it possible then? And is it possible that that's what could be creating a lot of the confusion?
Come on.
I don't think so.
No,
because I was in Ethiopia and sat with people that I know that spoke perfect English and read the Bible, and I was putting the two Bible, the King James version, and going through the Bible. Of course, there's a book in the Bible that's not in the King James version of the Bible, like the book of Enoch, of course, and Jubilees and all of that. But for the most part, it was saying the same thing.
We in Ethiopia want
can
the Bible.
Can I just throw something in here in the chat room? Tony Rankin, greetings, Ambassador Rankin, says, strange, Rasta here in Thailand don't read the Bible. Just thought I'd throw that in. Go ahead, Brother Rankin.
Greetings, Tony Rankin.
Yes, so that's the thing I was trying to get to earlier about the theology of Rasta. Because look here now, anything that was said or do that depart from the teachings of His Imperial Majesty is not Rasta. Imperial Majesty is a staunch advocate of the Bible. So if you use a Rasta who born in the Bible, you're born in Rasta. It's for you now to read it and find the truth for yourself and guidance for your future actions, like what the King said.
But I think most Rastas who fireburn the Bible, not literally like for instance, when they say, when Sizzler come out and say, burn Christ, burn Jesus, he's not saying burn him, him a burn the name. Him said during those days there was no such name as Jesus. Me I go fireburn that. Go back to the truth. What I'm saying? Most Rastas who fireburn, I've never heard.
No, but you have to understand, that's the thing about responsibility, right? You have to understand that when you set things like that, you have to be able to explain it within a context. If you just set it and leave it out there like that, a little youth in a Spanish town who hear that, automatically misled him, don't really get it. So what you really burning is the concept of the white Jesus upon the almanac, which is the most disgraceful thing that ever happened in creation to us. Right? So now when you say born Jesus, people have to know it's him talking about. Because when I was talking to the founder of the 12th tribe of Israel, the prophet God, right? He said to me that when him asked the members to use this greeting, the official greeting of the 12th tribe of Israel, which is, greetings in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who has in this day been revealed to us in the personality of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Nobody wanted to say it because of this fear of the name Jesus, which that's what I'm telling you, we allow them to take it from us, right?
The name itself conjure image.
Yeah, exactly. And we allow them to own it.
But Randy, hold on a minute.
But
isn't there a whole lot of baggage that comes with it?
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. But we have to know, we have to understand we can't throw the baby with the bathwater.
But just like how you like how you just said to Ras Osagyefo, you can't say burn this because it's going to create a certain vibration to the hearer, to the youth down a Spanish town. Similarly, when you say Jesus Christ, it creates a certain understanding, which is not what you're intending to say.
Right. So that is why His Majesty said.
So isn't it equally irresponsible to do that as it is to say burn this and burn that?
No.
When the youth.
No, but that's why I said Jesus
I can't
Christ.
work with double standard.
Double standard. Let me explain. God said Jesus Christ was being revealed to us in the person. Now, that's an explanation.
Let me tell you what I got with Rasta.
That's an explanation.
We are trying to put new wine in our old skin.
Thank you.
No, but that's an explanation.
That's an explanation that says what?
What
it says is what it says is, if I understand it, it has been revealed, means that it takes you right back to the old.
But
that is the old wine that Osagyefo we're trying to put in the new vessel.
No, but what we need to realize though, that there's nothing wrong with the Christ concept.
Well, that's another.
Why not say Yahudah Christus?
It's the same word, man. It's just a different pronunciation. It don't mean nothing.
But I think
Abba trying to get in our word.
Go on, Abba.
Different, man.
Go on, Abba.
All right. The word Jesus Christ conjure the image of a white man face with him hair and blonde and everything that we know. That is Jesus Christ image.
Disgusting one,
All right, because it's already in your mind.
Yeah.
But if you understand that this man that they're saying is Jesus Christ, never really, there's no historical reality of this. There's no history of him. All right, there's a history of a person that had another name. Yahushua, who they call the Hamashiach.
Yeah.
All right? The Mashiach now, being Yahushua, that cannot conjure the image of Jesus Christ in your mind when you say that name, and that was the actual name.
Yeah.
So when you say Jesus Christ, you always go all the way back to the colonial image, which is the old wine. You try to put new wine in an old skin. That's what Osagyefo said. And that's what our beloved is also saying. So we cannot associate with Jesus like that unless we understand that when you say Jesus, you're talking about a myth.
Right. See, but but there's also a reality though, and the reality is that on the one hand, you explain Rastafari as self-actualization, but then you talk about His Majesty being, Jesus being revealed. And our understanding of Jesus in Christian teaching concept is everything through Jesus Christ. Now, are you self-actualizing or are you submitting to the Jesus Christ concept of Christianity that calls upon a different
I need to answer this.
Vibration.
I need to answer this.
Okay.
First of all,
let me just answer that.
Hold on, Abba.
Yeah. First of all, we need to know that Christianity is not a European religion. First of all.
I said that already. Yeah?
That is something we need to understand. We need to understand that it's an Ethiopian concept. So now,
my brother, we are all well and good, but the Christianity that the people that you're talking to have been exposed to teaches certain concepts.
So let me finish now. It is up to an individual to study and know that. Because I say we can't allow them to kick off for the Christ consciousness. That's what them doing.
While you say it's up to the individual to study and know that, the church is not leaving it up to the individual. They are indoctrinating every Sunday. That's what you're up against. And so you cannot speak to the people who are indoctrinated every Sunday.
So how do you know the difference?
Let Abba Yahudah get his answer.
How do you know the difference?
Come in, Abba.
Come in, Abba.
All right. All right. What you say is right. Everyone upon the same page in a different paragraph in a different sentence.
Clear it up, Regine.
All right, because you're right. All right. When the people them already conditioned in this Eurocentric Christianity, you understand? Them already have the images them pegged down. You understand? When they say Moses, them have Moses' image already. Them have Jesus Christ's image. Them know where all of them look like in their mind. Them have enough television shows where already show you, Hollywood already tell you already what to think. All right? So you have to then show now, you have to study, like our beloved said, we have to study and understand certain things. That there is more information beyond the information in the Bible, because there's such Dead Sea Scrolls, the Nag Hammadi library, the Nag Hammadi doctrines of the Gnostics of ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet. You know, you have all of these sciences that trickle down to us today to show you that the Christianity that we learn about is only a shadow of another form of Christ's life and consciousness that Europeans have taken on and used to condition slaves. So you wouldn't want to give the slaves the truth of what the real thing is. So obviously, if the slave master is giving you any form of religion, he's not giving you the true thing. But when we have done our research, we have found that there is a group of people called the Essene. Okay? And we find that the Essenes from ancient Egypt existed as a Gnostic body of individuals that transcended certain doctrines that were popular in the day that the groups would hold on to. And the Essenes actually were the group of people that Christ came out of. John the Baptist was also an Essene, because he was a Jew and he was doing something that Jews don't normally do. He was baptizing people. That's one of the rituals of the Essenes. All right. So now when you find that there are other books, like the book of Enoch that Ethiopia have in its own canon, in its own Bible, as one of the books of the Bible, you find that there is a whole mystic teaching coming from out of Enoch.
Right.
That we never know about, that's not in the Bible.
The book
and when you find out that the name is not Jesus, and that is Yahushua,
right,
it kind of then peel away one of the layers of the conditioning to reveal a truth that, wow, if I don't say Jesus, then I don't pull this image, but I can speak of the Christ in its essence from the name that was given unto that historical figure and not the mythological figure. So a whole lot of relearning have to take place before people can then replace those images, because those images are in there already and they're in a particular context inside of them.
Right.
So you have to unlearn those things with truth. Replace that with truth and substance, and the more you know is the less you'll see those images when you realize, like, wow, go to Ethiopia and you see all these images.
So
give you a whole different idea.
Abba Yahudah,
you see? Yes, beloved.
Your book title, The Journey into the Heart of, repeat the name of the title of your book again.
A Journey to the Roots of Rastafari.
Right. Another
the
book.
Essene Nazarite link.
Another book that we used to break down. I remember you went and you print the entire book, and was the Cabranegas,
The Cabranegas.
Yeah. So, would you recommend people who in the chat room who are hearing this wealth of knowledge that you're putting out and where you study, would you recommend them, also go and get in the book of Enoch, go and get in
the book of Enoch,
and go and get in the Cabranegas and read? Would you recommend those books to the people out there?
Yes, I would recommend the Cabranegas. I would recommend the book of Enoch as well.
Right, and for those of you,
any book on the subject of Essenes.
Right, and for those of you out there listening, the Ziggy Marley did a book about the book of Enoch, not about the Cabranegas. Make sure you get the original Cabranegas, not the one that was edited by the Marleys.
In the chat room, the question is being asked whether or not you visited Africa, Abba Yahudah.
Oh yes, oh yes. I have traveled from Tanzania, Sudan, Kenya, Egypt, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Somalia, all of those places in East Africa. And I find that all over Africa, that I have traveled, Rastafari have an impact. They are recognized. I mean, I came out of my hotel room and went downstairs in Nairobi, and a young man just walked up to me, a Maasai, just walked up to me and say, "Greetings in the name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I reveal himself in the image of Jesus Christ." And I'm looking at, I'm like, what? And him have the belt, him have the mesh marina, him have on the clocks, and him just coming up to me and him say, "You want a taxi?" And it was a joy because he bring us to his village, and it showed us that, in his village, his parents, in his ancestry is coming from the chief status. And it says today, that is no more. But because of Rastafari, he is now the chief of his village. And he brought us to his house and met his wife and his children, and, saying to him that I'm on my way now into Ethiopia. And he's saying, oh, he's just coming back from Ethiopia, and the war between Eritrea and Ethiopia is hot over there, and boy, I shouldn't go, And this is like 1996, and so went over there and spent 3.5 months, and it was intense, because Pope Abuna Paulus at that time was the Abuna, and there was some death in the churchyard in Addis, in one of the churches in Addis, Apabata way, that came into the churchyard and was prophesying, and I think they shot him. And there was a big thing going on, so it was intense, but I love Africa, and I will always be thinking and feeling like, wow, we need to be doing something more practical, in Africa as Rasta, using whatever means necessary.
In the chat room, Lioness is letting us know that she just bought your book on Amazon. And so we give thanks for that.
Big up Lioness.
Give thanks.
And for those of you who want to know a little bit more about the book, let me just share with you a review of the book, which reads, "A Journey to the Roots of Rastafari is a logical and well-executed reference about the Ethiopian roots of Rastafari. Since many published works on the topic are nearing 15 years old, the updated volume by the Jamaican-born follower has value. To Rastafarians, archaeology and ancient Essene texts point to Ethiopia as the birthplace of mankind and the coming location for salvation and peace on earth. When Queen of Sheba returned from Jerusalem, it is believed she was carrying King Solomon's son in her womb. Also, the avowed presence of the Hebrew Ark of the Covenant in Ethiopia passed Hebrew prophecies on to the Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie I. His death in 1975 is not a deterrent to Rastafarians who wait on his return from heaven to establish an eternal kingdom on earth. Belief in African Zionism was carried to Jamaica during the early 1900s, where it has adapted as Jamaican Zionism. This book covers diverse topics from wearing locks, a Nazarite vow similar to the long hair of Samson in the Bible, to the Immaculate Conception as evidence of a female component in the Holy Trinity. Sources quoted in this 377-page book include the Essene, in parentheses, Nazarene Holy Bible, Old and New Testaments of the Holy Bible, and the Ethiopian Kebra Negras. A list of figures provides helpful access to the exceptional artwork of the author. Equally helpful are extensive footnotes, which might serve better compiled into endnotes, an index, or a glossary. The readers appeal to Yahuda's book. The reader appeal to Yahuda's book relates to the human anticipation of a savior. For millennia, some have expected a political or a militant hero. Recently, the aliens are offered as hope for this planet. Religious groups of Judeo-Christian origin, including Rastafari, look to the coming or return of a Messiah. The echo of many hearts remain, even so, come. This is one review of Abba Yahudah Tafari's, Abba Yahudah Selassie's book, A Journey to the Roots of Rastafari. Anything you want to add to that, my brother? I
never read that review.
You never read that review?
No.
Okay, is there anything you want to say about it? Or add
the
to
book
it?
is the first of its kind book. That's a lot of people fail to understand that there's never been a book before published that juxtaposed ancient Essene with Rasta of today. You know, and that's what this book is about. It's basically telling you that the Essenes, who you basically don't know anything about, are the true Christians. And so what I'm saying, people need to understand that there's more than the Bible, and that there is this Bible is talking, it's like a shadow of something even more authentic, you know. And the more authentic thing, when you find out more about that, you realize that Jesus don't have any place in it. You find that Jesus is the illusion, and that there's a reality that you can access as well, and that reality is actually your heritage.
Okay, Benjamin in the chat room, thank you for that. Benjamin in the chat room says, enough talking as usual, but no action. I want reasonings, but with an action plan. Let me just let Benjamin know that this reasoning would not be possible were it not for this organization being 10 years old and have been doing a lot of action over the time. We invite you to become a member and help us do the work, Benjamin. We're all about action over here. Come be a part of it.
Yeah, but you know, Benjamin sounds like he's a man of action. I'd like to know his agenda, and I'd like to know his program. If we can be a part of it, would love to be.
Quick question about
yes.
While talking about, you know, I heard I was at the bingy of His Imperial Majesty birthday, Earth Strong.
Yeah.
You know, in Prospect Park, and one of the Abuna there read an article from Ethiopia where the head of the Ethiopian, you know, Orthodox Church was commenting on. I'm gonna try to paraphrase. He says, he said we try to deny the Rastas of in Jamaica. We try to deny them, you know, try to make them as if they weren't valid. But he's now giving credit to the Rastas. Said the Rastas have gone. No other set of people have come and have dig deep into the esoteric, into the metaphysics to find out who the truth was. And he gave credit to the Rastas for digging that deep. Did you ever come across that article?
I've never seen that article.
All right, I'm gonna
try. Can you send that to me?
I'm gonna try to dig it up. But that's, I know Ras Abba from, you know, me, Ras Abba Yahudah, and a couple other brothers. Like I say, Fred Locke used to be in the, you know, part of it, and we would just sit down together in Williamsburg and, you know, reason. So I can validate that this is one who study, study. And one of the things that I draw from a book that you had found, where you used to find books, I don't know. One of the things that I draw from a book that you found was when you found a book, you went to the library and you found a book where Mussolini went to literally went to His Majesty and begged His Majesty, say, step out of my way, man.
Oh.
You know?
Yeah, man, please. Yeah, man. Sell me your rights to Ethiopia. You can live anywhere you want.
Right.
It's one of those. It's the second edition of the book, but the one that I had was an early copy of the second autobiography of Haile Selassie the First.
You know.
Yeah.
And also, you another book you brought. I have that one in my library. It's a Polish writer who had gone to Ethiopia to denounce his Imperial Majesty. He went purposely to denounce his Imperial Majesty. When he went, what he found was people. What he found, and when he wrote the book and he apologized and says, "I went there to show that this man was a fraud." But after what I heard, after what I've seen, he walked away with a different light. You know, and that book used to be that book used to be in Barnes and Noble, and I try to find it. Barnes and Noble don't even carry it anymore. You know. Yeah. I
found a rare book in Austria, in Vienna, in a bookstore, man, and it's a book. It's a memorial services of Haile Selassie the First, and it was authored by Ollendorf, the same person that did the bio of Haile Selassie the First. And it has a Lalibela Maskell in gold on the cover. But I have never seen another copy of it.
Wow.
There's also another book we used to have in Williamsburg called No Jerusalem.
Yeah.
You know, the Ethiopian patrimonial rights in Jerusalem. You know, and it was a book that was written by Abuna Philippus, who was the Archbishop in Jerusalem at the time, and it was authorized by Haile Selassie the First. And in that book, it is showing you the Ethiopian connection and rights to holy places in Jerusalem, such as places above in Golgotha, places above the sepulchre of Christ, and how the Egyptians, the Coptics, went in and destroyed many of the Ethiopian books, saying that there was a plague there, and burned many of the Ethiopian books, and have been trying to fight Ethiopia out of those patrimonial rights in Jerusalem. But this is a book that is a very powerful book. You know who used to have it? Jamo.
Wow.
Jamo, can I ask you a question here? You use the word Essene several times, and I have a brief definition of it here that says a member of a Palestinian sect characterized by asceticism, celibacy, and joint holding of property that flourished from the 2nd century BC to the 2nd century AD. What more can you tell us? Tell us some more about this Essene.
Okay. Well, the Essene order, you know, that was a simplistic expression of it, of course. But
exactly.
It started from way in the day when Moses brought the law. Remember when Moses brought down the law, you know, and he realized that the people weren't ready for it, and he broke the law and came down with another law. Well, the first teaching is the teachings of the Essenes. The second teachings is the teachings of the Levitical order, the 10 Commandments. You know.
And who were the Essenes? Tell us some more about who they were.
They were a Jewish ascetic group of people that adhered to the esoteric teachings, you know, the Kabbalistic aspect of Judaism. And they were reclusive. They're more like how the Bataways are in Ethiopia. And they lived in a communal community where there were 3 circles of community. So the outer circle is the people that came in, and at the first stage of it, you know, if you decided that you wanted to stay in the community, you had to go through several series of purification. And one of those series of purification was early morning bathing, baptism, you know, water purification. And the Essenes were vegetarian, you know, and the teachings of Enoch were the teachings of this order. because the mysteries were revealed to Enoch. He was the first prophet within the 7th generation of man. So,
okay, we're running out of time here, but before we close, I want to remind you all that next week, Thursday, at this time, we will be holding our State of Reggae reception. The discussion then will be, what is reggae? Questions for our souls. Questions for our souls. What is reggae? And of course, present for that will be Miss Pat Chin, founder of Randy's Records and VP Records, Miss Sharon Gordon, chairperson of the Coalition to Preserve Reggae Music and a co-founder of the coalition, and Alex Vitulis, who is the associate charts production manager at Billboard Magazine. They will be here to talk about what is reggae, what is this thing.
And it's also a good time for you in the listening audience you get a chance to come into CPR, be a part of the audience, be a part of, and see how CPR work, and see how you can be a part of CPR.
I would certainly invite Brother Benjamin, if he's local, to be with us in studio. We will be entertaining a small studio audience for this one, as we do for our forums, which run from February through June. So this is a kickoff of our forum series, the Community Conversation series. We want to have you come on out, be a part of our studio audience, be able to meet and greet our panelists or guests or presenters, ask questions of them in a more direct manner than through the chat room. And we invite you all to join us in studio. And if you can't, which I know you all can't do, then we'll be broadcasting. So do join us online. Sorry I didn't get to more of the questions and comments in the chat room, but we thank you all for having logged on and been a part of this evening's presentation. I want to thank Brother Randy Fagan, Ras Randy, and our very special guest, Abba Yahudah. Some final thoughts, Ras Osagyefo.
So, final thoughts, I'm going to ask if we have, just say something that you would like to leave with our audience, Abba Yahudah.
Yes, I'd just love to say that, divinity is your birthright. And the thread of Rastafari is liberty, which means it's active life. It's life activity. And it is supposed to bring you into full enlightenment, which is the enthronement of Haile Selassie I, so we can do the work of Haile Selassie I, or at least continue the vision. And unless we become enthroned, the journey continues. But the journey should continue from the throne perspective at this point, meaning that we are claiming our power.
Right.
And we're living in our divinity in the name of Haile Selassie I, the fullness of the feminine divine, Haile Selassie.
Blessed, my brother. And Uncle Randy?
Yeah, I just want to say that as Rasta, we just have to say, give us the teaching of His Majesty, because that's what it's all about, and the more we embrace that, is the more Rasta will become,
Right.
Yeah, simple as that.
Yeah, and I just want to extend to Brother Carlisle the vision for this, that for having a vision for this. And for those of you in the chat room and in the listening audience, like Brother Carlisle said, sorry we couldn't run through. I saw the board just jumping. We hope that this will be a reason that will not end there, that you will, wherever you are, start to do your reasoning, start to reason. Let's come together and reason and build. And next month will be Women's History Month, and so for the sisters who were addressing, how women were treated in the Bingi, to tune in, because next month we're going to have a panel of sisters who will be coming in, and we are asking them not to hold bar, but to shed light on some of the gripe that they have with the Rasta community.
And some of the good things too.
I want to big up to the women, because the sisters have done a great job in holding down the fort, holding up the light, even though they were up even under fire from oppression from Babylon and oppression from them own ones and ones.
Please mark your calendar for the third Thursday of each month for Natural Mystics. Peace and love.
love and oneness. Bongo Manasco. City Bongo Manasco. Bongo Manasco. Been giving you the warning. The new day has dawned. I hope you are prepared. The Bongo Man is here. Bongo Man has him you will never come at all. Never come at. You will never, never, never. And if you follow heads of churches, you will never come at all. We are going to Zion. I hope you are prepared. The Bongo Man is here. Say the Bongo Man has him come on now. Nati Congo Ayas, him come on na. Him come. Rastafari. See the Bongo Man has gone.